Okay, so for this last target, we are looking at outliers and how they affect our line. So what we want to think about, things that affect our line, our slope and our y-intercept, is when the line tilts. So that affects the slope and the y-intercept. So like think of this hand as the y-intercept. If I'm tilting my line, it's going up, or if I'm tilting it this way, it's going down. So if the line tilts, that affects the slope in the y-intercept. If you just shift the line up and down, it doesn't necessarily affect the slope, but it will affect like my y-intercept and where that is. So that's the shifting. It's like I'm doing a dance. I'm shifting the line, tilting the line. Losing my mind. Okay, so what we want to look at then is how outliers affect all that business. So for this one, we have a high leverage point, which is still fitting the pattern of our data, but it will influence some things, right? It's probably going to switch up some stuff. We'll just have to decide what it switches. And then this is another influential point, but this one would be an outlier because it's far away from the pattern and it has a large residual. So it has a large space between the point and the line. So how would points affect things? So if I was looking at this pattern and I looked at this outlier, if I was the line and I got to try to catch all the points, right? I mean, I'm trying to best model the pattern here. So if I have a point that's like really high above my line, my line is going to go like up to try to catch it. It's not necessarily going to tilt to catch it because that's not really going to work, but it's going to just slide up a little bit to try to catch that line. So if we are sliding the line, so any sort of slide, that's going to affect the y-intercept. It's just like, whoop, I'm sliding up or down. So that this point would create an upward slide. If I added one in this direction going down, it would create a downward slide. So in this case, if I'm sliding up, my y-intercept on this one would go up with this point. If I was using this point, my y-intercept would go down because my line is sliding down to grab it. Now, other points we can add are these like high leverage points. These fit the pattern, so they're not really going to cause any sort of tilting or shifting, but they will just strengthen the relationship. So this kind of point would increase your R value or your strength number because it's still fitting your pattern. It's not very far away. So that's a high leverage, but it's not an outlier because it's not affecting, it's not super far away from the pattern and that. So this is high leverage, but it does influence the strength of the pattern, so therefore it's influential. It's still influencing the correlation. Now, if I added a point kind of in the sideways direction, like let's say I added this one, this would definitely be an outlier. It's like very far away from my line. But this point would create a tilt. So if you're adding points like outliers in the horizontal directions, those will cause a tilt in the line because the line's going to go, it's trucking along doing its thing, and then all of a sudden, woo, I got to catch that point right there. So there it is. In order to catch the point, the line's going to have to tilt. So for this one, we would have, this is a tilt. So this is going to cause, in this particular case for this point, my slope would go down here to try to grab it. But then the other side of my line's coming up. So the y-intercept would go up. Now, if I added a point on the other side, so like if I did it, way over here or something, this would cause the slope, it would, we might tilt the other direction. So the slope here, for this point, if we're, this one was tilting down, the first one to grab it, maybe we're going to tilt the other way. So this could, depending on where it's placed, maybe increase my slope, like the opposite tilt, and then my y-intercept might go down. My R value in both of these cases, in the green here, my R value would definitely get lower because these points are really disconnected. In the case of this point up here, again, R would also decrease because it's pretty disconnected.